What does it mean to be the richest person in history? Is it Elon Musk, with rockets piercing the skies and fortunes rising and falling on the stock market? Is it Jeff Bezos, reshaping commerce and delivery with Amazon's reach? Or perhaps it is Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, or the trillion-dollar tech empires of our own age? The truth is, none of them come close. 7 centuries before Musk was born, in a time when Europe was clawing its way out of the Middle Ages, a king from West Africa possessed a fortune so immense that it broke economies, altered the destiny of nations, and still echoes in whispers today. His name was Mansa Musa, ruler of the Mali Empire. And historians agree, his wealth was so vast, so unquantifiable, that even today economists struggle to calculate it. By modern standards, Mansa Musa was worth more than anyone alive now, or perhaps ever. This is his story, the story of gold, pilgrimage, power, and a forgotten legacy that reveals a hidden truth. The richest man who ever lived was not Elon Musk, but an African king. The year was 1312. The golden sands of West Africa shimmered beneath the unforgiving sun. Mali, a land carved between the great rivers Senegal and Niger, rose as one of the most powerful empires in the medieval world. At its head stood a man destined to leave a mark so profound that even today his name is spoken with awe: Mansa Musa Keita. But Mansa Musa did not rise to the throne through ambition alone. Fate played its hand. His predecessor, Abu Bakr II, had been obsessed with the ocean. Determined to discover lands across the Atlantic, he built a fleet of hundreds of ships and sailed westward into the unknown. None returned. With the throne vacant, Musa, who had been appointed deputy during Abu Bakr's expedition, assumed the crown. And with that moment, history shifted. Mansa Musa was no ordinary king. He was a devout Muslim, a ruler who saw his destiny not only in wealth and conquest, but in faith, scholarship, and legacy. His empire stretched across much of West Africa, encompassing present-day Mali, Senegal, Guinea, Niger, Nigeria, and Mauritania. Within its borders lay the world's largest reserves of gold, the very metal that defined wealth for centuries. It is estimated that half of the world's gold during the 14th century came from West Africa, and Mali, under Musa's reign, was its beating heart. Yet Mansa Musa's name would not simply rest on conquest or territory. It would become legend in the year 1324, when he embarked on the Hajj, his sacred pilgrimage to Mecca. Imagine this sight: a caravan stretching as far as the eye could see. 60,000 men followed him, including 12,000 slaves dressed in fine brocade and silk. Each slave carried a bar of solid gold, weighing several pounds. 80 camels walked in procession, each loaded with 300 pounds of gold dust. Musicians, heralds, soldiers, wives, and attendants trailed behind, forming what was perhaps the most extravagant display of wealth the medieval world had ever seen. As Musa's entourage crossed the Sahara, tales spread ahead of him like wildfire. By the time he reached Cairo, Egypt, the city buzzed with anticipation. And then the unimaginable happened. Mansa Musa began distributing gold freely, to the poor, to merchants, to rulers, to everyone he encountered. He gave so much away that the price of gold collapsed. Inflation gripped Egypt for over a decade. The value of currency crumbled under the sheer weight of his generosity. Think about that for a moment. Elon Musk's tweets may sway markets for days, perhaps weeks, but Mansa Musa's generosity destabilized entire economies for years. No billionaire alive today can claim such an impact. But Musa's vision was not merely in gold. His wealth was a tool for something greater: returning from his pilgrimage, he brought with him architects, scholars, and artisans from across the Islamic world. In Timbuktu, a city at the edge of the desert, Musa poured his fortune into building mosques, libraries, and universities. The most famous was the Jingiadaber Mosque, designed by an Andalusian architect and built with mud, wood, and stone that still stand today. Timbuktu became a beacon of learning. Its libraries held hundreds of thousands of manuscripts on astronomy, medicine, law, mathematics, and philosophy. Scholars from North Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe traveled across the Sahara to study there. For centuries, when Europeans thought of Africa, they imagined Timbuktu as a city of myth and wonder, overflowing with treasures. It was Musa's investment that made it so. Here lies one of the greatest revelations of his reign. Wealth for Musa was not measured in gold, but in knowledge, in faith, and in the power to shape culture for generations. But how does Mansa Musa's wealth compare to the richest men of our time? In 2025, Elon Musk's net worth hovers around $400 billion, fluctuating with Tesla's stock and SpaceX's ambitions. Jeff Bezos follows with around $190 billion, Bernard Arnault with $180 billion, and others like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Mark Zuckerberg trail behind. Together, the world's 10 richest men may make up just over $1 trillion. Mansa Musa alone, by some estimates, commanded the equivalent of $400 to $500 billion, possibly more. But numbers only scratch the surface. His wealth was not confined to digital accounts or fluctuating markets. It was in gold, salt, land, trade routes, and people. It was tangible, visible, and powerful enough to rewrite economies. In truth, comparing Musk to Musa is like comparing a flame to the sun. Yet Musa's wealth carried with it both glory and burden. His extravagant pilgrimage, while legendary, also destabilized economies. His empire, though powerful, would not last forever. Within a century after his death, the Mali Empire began to fracture. Songhai rose in its place, and the golden age of Mali faded into memory. But Musa's story reveals another truth. Wealth alone cannot sustain power. Knowledge, faith, and legacy are what endure. Even today, the manuscripts of Timbuktu survive, preserved by families who risked everything to keep them safe through centuries of invasion and colonialism. They whisper Musa's true legacy, an empire that valued learning as much as gold. To understand Musa fully, one must see the world through his eyes. Islam had reached West Africa centuries earlier, carried by Berber traders across the desert. For Musa, faith was inseparable from rulership. His pilgrimage was not merely a display of wealth, but an act of devotion. Yet he ruled over a people with diverse traditions, Islam interwoven with local spiritual practices, griot who preserved history through song, and a society where oral tradition carried as much authority as the written word. Musa balanced faith and tradition, empire and culture, gold and spirit. It is this balance that made his reign remarkable. So here lies the final revelation. When we ask, who is the richest man who ever lived, we miss the deeper question. Wealth is not only what one possesses, but what one leaves behind. Elon Musk may one day colonize Mars, but Mansa Musa transformed a continent, left behind mosques, manuscripts, and cities that inspired generations and showed the world a glimpse of Africa's hidden wealth. 700 years later, his name still carries a weight that no billionaire's fortune can match. And yet the question lingers. Could any modern billionaire, Elon Musk, Bezos, or Arnott ever rival Musa's fortune if measured by today's standards? Or is Musa's wealth simply beyond comparison, a legend etched into the golden sands of time? Perhaps the answer is buried in the manuscripts of Timbuktu, in the ruins of Mali's forgotten cities, or in the uncharted wealth of Africa itself. One thing is certain: the richest man who ever lived was not Elon Musk. It was Mansa Musa, the Lion of Mali, whose golden touch still glitters across history. If you found this journey beyond the pages of history as captivating as we did, don't forget to subscribe to History Off the Map. Like, share, and join us as we uncover more stories the world has forgotten. Secrets buried not in textbooks, but in the soul of humanity itself.